Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Lion's Den. We're in the building. It is Cinco de Mayo. Is it? Is it now
Yeah,
Cinco de Mayo? Hey,
correct.
y'all. Hey, it's the 5th of May. All right. So if this is your first time tuning in here at the Lion's Den, what we do is we focus on leadership growth, and development with a call to action from the household out into the community. Miss Dani, how you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited about today's conversation, talking about the firsts. I'm doing a lot better since the last time I talked to you guys.
Mhm.
If you guys, for those of you who are watching and listening, did not get a chance to listen to that last episode, make sure you go listen to it. But I'm doing well. There's a lot of ways we could take today's conversation. So, personally, I had a lot of firsts during the pandemic, so I'm excited to talk about some of that. But yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so already, make sure you are subscribing and listening to this on the Lion Sprite Network. So, in the chat, wherever you are right now, make sure you click on this, right? Because we're about to go exclusively live over there, right? So, we got Dani here in the building with me. Big Herm, he's out handling some business. And then we got Jibri. He got some crazy allergies going on out there. So shout out to everybody that's dealing with the allergy monsters out there, right? Because we know they're out there. What's going on there, James? What's going on? What's in the building? Ladies and gentlemen, so like she said, what we're getting ready to talk about seriously are the first steps. And that means just with anything, right? I mean, just picture this. When a baby is taking their first steps, right? It's hard. It's not, they don't really know what's going on. They know they want to get from point A into, to point B. However, their body is made, our bodies are made to walk. It takes time, right? It takes time, it takes trial, it takes effort, it takes error, right? And that's what it's about. But sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, fear prevents us from even taking the first step. If you understand what I'm saying. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about maybe careers, right? How it can be difficult taking that step in that, ending relationships, beginning new relationships, right? Seeking mental health, possibly, right? Starting exercise goals. Hey, listen, how about everybody in the beginning of the year? They was like, hey, new year, new me. But here they are, old them, new year, old them, right? What you afraid of? And other than that, let's even talk about performance-based things. What do you do to take the first step to raise your own brand? How do you do that? So, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to go ahead and start this conversation. But again, you got time. Go on over there and get your life together so that we can start this conversation on YouTube exclusively. So, Ms. Dani, tell me what you think about that. What do you think about starting or your first steps in whatever endeavor? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, so the first thing that came to mind was the time that I went to Job Corps, stayed in Job Corps for about a year and a half.
Mhm.
I just was like giving my mom a lot of difficulty through school. So that just was not the conventional public school system, just was not an opportunity for me. I didn't do well. So had to go to Job Corps to learn a trade. And I think about the first job, taking that first step back into, I guess you could say, civilian life coming out of Job Corps and applying that trade. So I was doing accounting and office assistance. My first job at 18 years old was at a cosmetic surgery clinic. So taking those first steps to kind of assert myself in a very, very different realm, working at a cosmetic surgery clinic. So you think about breast augmentation and all of the other things that come with that. I was a switchboard operator. And so, to be quite honest, I did not do well at that job, taking my first steps, because it was probably way over my head. After getting out of Job Corps at 18 years old, I had a girlfriend who would always prank call me at that job. If you can imagine, just saying all bunch of crazy stuff. So I didn't do well. I wasn't successful, but it was taking my first step to do a job, and apply myself in the real world. And I was, able to learn from that experience and glean from that experience. And I realized how I need to apply myself moving forward. So those were my first steps, taking my first job after Job Corps, working at a cosmetic surgery clinic.
No, so I like that. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, is important to think about or even to consider just with the whole career thing. For example, after 21 years in the military, you think it'd be easy to just transition to start something new, right? Wrong. Absolutely not, right? Why? Because it's a new culture, right? So venturing into a new career path, especially after years in one doing one thing or something that's completely new, can be daunting, right? So the fear, like we was talking about before, of the unknown and potential financial instability in between that, or even going through that, that can cause a certain level of what, anxiety. You dig what I'm saying? And the challenges of starting from scratch or at a lower level, right, than previously, that that you may have been accustomed to, or not even knowing what to do, can be extremely difficult. So, but what do you do with that, right? What do you do? How do you maneuver and take those steps? So let me ask you this, Dani, when you did take those steps forward, what was the driving factor that you used to, to propel you?
Yeah, I think the next thing after realizing I probably wasn't ready for a real job was to think about going back to school and furthering my education after Job Corps. So getting into technical school, I realized that my process was probably going to be baby steps. So not going to like a 4-year college, but going to tech or junior college, some people would say. So learning like, okay, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? And then can I see myself having a career in that? So that for me was human services, connecting with people who can give me insights, going to like the what open house kind of situation to understand more about the program, connecting with some of the career advisors at the time. And then I went to human services, and from technical college or junior college, I got a lot of experience under my belt, connected with a lot of people, still in touch with some of my instructors from junior college. Shout out to Dr. Phil, who was very instrumental in my life. So I just applied myself and I went harder. I was a part of the ASG. For those of you who are not familiar, ASG is Associated Student Government. So I just connected with a lot of people and tried to push myself even further. And I did not get hard on myself or hunker down on myself. I did not beat myself down for not being successful after that loss at the cosmetic surgery clinic. I just pivoted.
See, there you go. It was just a pivot. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes it can be something that's small physically, even emotionally or mentally, but what do you do to put in your way to cause you to move forward, right? Or to move past whatever that barrier is. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about first steps, and it's first steps to the better version of your life. And the funny thing is, I was having this discussion with my daughter the other day, and we were talking about the same thing. And she's learning how certain things that we've been talking about, she's advancing in those things. So I said, hey, what do you think is going on? And then so she looked at me, she said, what do you mean? And then so I said, what do I tell you every day? Right? What's going on, y'all? Hey, shout out to you. She says, oh, and so this is how she do it. See, she rolls her eyes. She said, I guess I'm focusing and learning and growing mentally, right?
She
I
knew
said,
a lecture was coming on.
exactly. No, because what happens is
Mhm.
every day when she goes to school, I say, hey, baby, make sure you listen and you focus and grow mentally. And she says, okay. And so she was having some ebbs and flows in school
Sure.
and certain subjects, but then now she's starting to get it. And it's, she's catapulting, and she's loving it. And I said, so what do you think you're doing? So essentially what I'm helping her to look at is the importance of effort, right? And getting outside of what, ladies and gentlemen, our comfort zone. Ooh,
Man.
yeah.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So look, for those that's listening right now, what are the first steps that you have taken to
Right.
get outside of your comfort zone to get on the other side of where you wanted to
I'm
be?
sure for you, you took a big leap outside
Mhm.
outside of your comfort zone when you joined the military. So what was that mental process like?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm glad you asked that question. Uh, Here I am now in my 40s, and I can honestly say I was not thinking about where I wanted to be. You get what I'm saying? Meaning 20 years later, but I tell you what, I knew where I didn't want to be. So that's something else, ladies and gentlemen. What does that pain do for you, right? It's not the pain of not doing, it's the pain of the pain of doing, it's the pain of not doing. So my mental process was, yo, I want to leave the crib. All right, let's be honest. I want to do my own thing. I want to get outside of my mother's, under her roof. Now, don't get me wrong. You know how parents are, whatever. Hey, if you're under my roof, you got to, follow my rules and all that. I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's time for me to go. You get what I'm saying? Not saying that it was hard, but I wanted to do my own thing. So the best way that I can, learn a new skill, travel the world, get paid. You get what I mean, and surround myself with other individuals that were on the same page, and so that's what it was. So what I'm saying is, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the pain and the discomfort of of inactivity could be the same and greater than the one of activity. Because being completely honest, Dani, when I did make that decision, I can look back at it and say, hey, that was the best decision that I made in my life, because I know I would not be where I am today. Even just everything in line, from mental, spiritual, financial, emotional, I would not be there if I did not get out of that space of comfort.
What was that first step to take that ASVAB and practice
What was the first step and what now?
that ASVAB test? I know that you had to study to get into the military.
Hmm. Wow. Well, I tell you this, my first step, look, the first step to the ASVAB test was realizing that I needed to take a test, and that everything that I wanted was in my control. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That's another thing. That's another thing as far as taking the first step. That first step is yours. Can you dig
I
that?
love that. That first
Yeah,
step is yours to take.
absolutely. And so understanding that that first step is yours to take, you own the responsibility of your activity or inactivity. In that, it is yours. So no matter what individuals tell you outside, what society says, what your friends, what your family, what your significant others say, it's really up to you. So to answer your question, I realized that, okay, I need to take a test. Based off of how I do on this test will determine my options of wait, first of all, if I can even come into the Air Force. Keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, there's minimum scores to get into every branch of the military. I wanted to be, in my opinion, in the best one, which is the Air Force. Right. And so at the time, it's like, yo, the scores are higher than everyone else. So that means I will have to do what? Study, apply myself, right? And not fall second best, third best, or even fourth best. And now, since we got the Space Force, I guess that's another thing, even fifth best, or Coast Guard. So if that's what I wanted to do, I had to apply myself and to push it. You dig?
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that you wanted to get into the Air Force. So there was a stint in my life, like I said, when I had to make a decision about what I was going to do next after not excelling at that first job. So I thought I would go into the military and follow behind my mother, who went in the Army, and my father, who also went in the Army, and that's how
Mhm.
they met. So I tried. I said, I don't want to go in the Army.
Mhm.
I would try to get into the Air Force, but like you said, there were certain criteria that you had to meet. And not that I wasn't able to pass the test, but I wasn't able to get past some of the financial
Yeah.
benchmarks that they set. Just not like getting out of Job Corps, getting your first credit card, not being responsible. So I was very irresponsible, like I said, getting back into civilian life. Although civilian life is only applied to military in most cases. Nonetheless, I didn't get into the Air Force. And so me trying to take that first step, that's another reason, why I went to go to junior college because I wasn't able to get into the Air Force like I wanted to. I thought I would be, like I said, follow behind my parents' footsteps. And I thought that would lead me on this long trajectory where I was like able to use the military as something to give me stability in my life. And that just was not in the cards for me. And so I had to handle that. I had to, be okay with that because God had another plan for me. So sometimes those first steps that you attempt to take in life, God will say, this is not your path. And so you have to be okay with whatever direction God is sending you on or
Yeah.
to.
No, you're absolutely right. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the truth. And no matter where it is that you want to go, think about it, what it is. Not only what it is, how do you want to be there and how do you want to show up? And so I want to give a good shout out and to mention our listeners right now. So we got here, my first step was getting away from doubters and following my dreams.
So good, DeMarcus. I love
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, shout out to you for that. And that's not easy, ladies and gentlemen, because sometimes, getting away from those doubters are individuals that you are related to or that, they're in your circle. And it's not necessarily physically getting away from them, it's emotionally and mentally getting away from them so you can stay focused. So shout out to you. All right. And then we also have, I agree with Seth, same scenario. The military meant leaving the crib for me as well, even if it was temporarily. Absolutely. Right. Because sometimes it's getting from one point, right, to one point for a moment just to, go to the next one. So I appreciate that. So now look, y'all, let's transition to this though. And I know this is difficult, but this is why we're here in the Lions Den, right? To have difficult and real conversations. So let's think about ending relationships, right? So deciding when a long-term relationship or marriage and recognizing, right, that there's no longer healthy or fulfilling, right? It wasn't anymore, or it isn't. So posed a significant emotional challenge to you right now, or even at that time, but you've been holding on. You get what I'm saying? Not taking the first step. So the prospect of hurting someone you care about, right? The uncertainty of the life post breakup and the stigma of failure, it right can all cause and can contribute to the difficulty of making that first step of breaking off something that's not healthy, ladies and gentlemen. So how do you deal with that, Dani? Let us know if there's women out there, right? We're gonna talk to the ladies, right? The lioness out there. You look, some of you ladies might be in some mess, and you knew it was some mess, right? Not us. There was red flags, but you know what? You thought those red flags was just for decoration, right? It's real talk. So
you thought those red flags were yellow, like just proceed with
exactly,
caution.
exactly. So how would you help a young lady in a situation that maybe that time is over and to take a next step into the better relationship or even just a healthy relationship with herself?
Yeah, I would say it's not easy, but you just have to rip the Band-Aid off. So for me, like I got into a situation with my children's father, knowing that there were a lot of red flags, but deciding to overlook all of those red flags and decided that I would still have children with this person. The first step was deciding to take accountability and even absolutely. I did a podcast with my mom about, women who decide not to take accountability and where does that get you? So instead of me being disgruntled, angry, bitter, complaining about him in my situation all of the time, I just chose to take the first step of assuming accountability for my situation. So because we were not in a committed relationship, because I decided to have not just one, but two, because I did not set healthy boundaries, all of those reasons are why I am currently a single mom. And just taking the first step to decide, okay, assume accountability. There will come a point in time, maybe where he will also see that he desires to have a relationship with his children, but until then, just be the bigger person and make the first step to whatever I can do in my own ecosystem, within my own means, within my own vices and resources, to do what I can for my children and not hold or harbor any negative feelings for him that would stunt and impact my own growth and mobility. So I just, for any woman who has a situation where you are like, he needs to pay, or he should be in their lives, or just want to bring hell to his life just out of being bitter, I would say take that first step. Now, this is for people who are in a co-parenting or solo parenting situation, but it was just assuming an accountability for my situation. And if you assume accountability for your life, I think you would be on a healthier trajectory moving forward, just understanding like you can only control what you can control. And then harboring any negative feelings is only going to impact you. Meanwhile, they're over there living their life and doing what they want to do while you're still worried and concerned about what he has going on in his household or whatever the case. Um,
Mm.
so just assume accountability. And then for me, like that means I didn't even go after child support in my situation, although I probably should, but I have not yet. So, just being fully transparent, that's my current situation. And I just chose to be accountable for my own decisions. There was nothing that I can necessarily do or make him feel like he needs to be a part of their life, except just be content with what we have going on over here. So
Mm.
I think women need to, especially women who are in a situation similar to mine, just find peace within their own ecosystem, within their own village, and be okay with, the path that you're on, not necessarily trying to wake up every day trying to fight that battle.
I like that. And you know what? I like that. First, I want to say that I appreciate you being transparent about that and vulnerable, because being honest, that is the first step in any type of relationship that is heading in a different realm. Owning what you have done to contribute to it,
Right.
right? So even if you
Absolutely.
think about the word relationship, the root word of that is to relate, right? So you guys are relating something at the same time. However, when something falls short, what is it that we did not do efficiently, right? And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is not just about relationships. It can be just intimate relationships. It's even with friendships, right? If there's a situation where you're moving and you're growing, and your friends, if you will, or your associates aren't moving and growing in that same direction, is it their fault for
Right.
how you feel while you're still in that situation? It may not be 100%, but what can you control? And as a matter of fact, the reason why this is good that we're talking about this, I'm currently reading a book now. It's called The Proximity Principle. All
Mhm.
right. The Proximity Principle by Ken Coleman. I encourage you all, pick it on up. It's either on Amazon or even audible.com if you are a listener of books. But essentially, it talks about it's our responsibility to surround ourselves with individuals that are either are at where we want to go, or going in the direction that we want to go in, and listening to individuals to see the level of proximity
Mhm.
you are from the top individual that you're searching for. It's kind of like the 6 degrees of separation, meaning
Sure.
between there's only, let's say, 5 people between me and Oprah. All right. However, if I want to connect with Oprah, I just need to listen, meet, understand those individuals that's in my immediate circle, and then watch it expand. But that's also my responsibility from getting outside to get outside of my own comfort zone, going right back, right? And saying, all right, if I want this, what am I currently doing, to Dani's point, what am I currently doing that's either attracting that or enabling me to get closer to that? If
Mhm.
I'm not doing that, I need to be aware of that and be honest with
Right.
myself.
Right.
Hey, I really don't want a healthy relationship because I'm not healthy my damn self.
Right.
You get
Hmm.
what I'm saying? What you think about that, Dani?
Yeah, and then part two of that earlier conversation is just I had to finally decide enough was enough and not continue to let that person come back in my life and be a revolving door. So the moment that I decided to cut off all ties to me, that's when we no longer saw that person. And it's almost been 2 years in October. And it was a hard, tough pill to swallow. Like you would like access to me in order for you to be a dad. And it just goes to say, like, what are you giving access to? Who are you giving access to? Power in not access, but power over you, because that's a lot of power that somebody can control, um, manipulate a situation, or continue to allow you to blur your boundaries, blur the lines in your life in order for you to just be a revolving door. There's no other way around it. So that's like you said, friendships, relationships, like the more that you continue to allow those situations, I think you're just going to be stagnant and it's not helping you grow and get to the places you want to be in life. So again, the first step was taking accountability. The second step was just assessing my life and setting healthy boundaries for the things that I want. If I want to go in a better direction, I had to be okay with being by myself, whatever that looked like. And so I'm, like I said, I in the last episode, pretty content now in a stage where I built my own ecosystem from home and don't have a lot of girlfriends in my circle currently because I had to remove myself from negative situations, and that's friendships and that relationship that I told you guys about.
Mhm, mhm. No, I get that, and I appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about is the first steps. Whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you want to do, what are you doing to get closer to that? And we've talked about the careers, talking about relationships and friendships or whatnot. Now, let's transition to something else that individuals may find difficult, right? So, seeking help for mental health issues. I want y'all to think about it for a minute, right? So, admitting that you need help and seeking treatment for mental health issues is can be extremely tough, right? Why? Because you have social stigmas, personal denial, and the fear of being perceived as weak or unable to cope with life challenges often hinders people from taking the crucial steps in healing or towards healing and support. So I want y'all to really think about that. Really
Mhm.
think about it. And, like we talk about the stigmas, people say, well, I'm not crazy. Nothing's wrong with me. Do you think something has to be wrong with you for you to get mental help? You get what I mean? So what do you think about that, Dani?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier at the top of the show that for me, I went through a lot of or mental health challenges or a lot of first steps during COVID. So for me at that time during COVID, and I'm sure all of us did, but I lost two jobs. My dad passed away the day after my son's first birthday and becoming a mom for the first time. So that was a lot. But at the time that I was working remotely from home for the unemployment office, I finally, for the first time after my dad passed, it had to be maybe 6 or 9 months in, finally had to tell my supervisor, me as a new mom dealing with the loss of my father, I need help. So obviously, if you guys know anything about EAP, Employment Assistance Programs, it allows you to get some form of counseling about, I'll say about 3 or 4 sessions where you're getting help from a counselor, and then you can decide if you want ongoing support. But I took up counseling sessions. That was probably the first time that I actually, as a Taurus, a bullheaded person, a woman raised in a single parent household who saw her mom thug it out and not ever complain or cry. That was the first time I personally had to say that I needed help. So I took that first step and told my supervisor that I wanted support. And oddly enough, my mom and then my children's father, they were like, why would you tell your supervisor that? Now they're going to look at you differently. They're going to expect that you can't deliver, you can't do the work. And I said, that's interesting that we all feel that way, that we can't go to our supervisors to say we need help when there's an EAP program in place for help to assist and aid you. So it was tough for me to say that I needed help, but in that moment, it was some of the best help that I could get as a new mom with the loss of a father.
No, see, I love that. I love that. And ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that don't understand the concept of help, right? The concept of support and the type of support that you need, that's the sign of strength, not weakness. Remember that. Those individuals that cannot communicate that they need help, they are not the strongest ones, right? They are not the strongest ones, because the individuals that's able to take a knee and say, hey, this is something that I need to do better. That means an individual is stronger than the perceptions of someone else. And don't get me wrong, I understand. Even when I first started going to, some counseling, getting counseling, or even a therapist, and this was in the military. It's all types of stigmas around that. Well, you're not this and you're not that if you go there, because it could be detrimental to your career,
Mhm.
specifically if you're around weapons or if you're dealing with, certain things in the military. I get that. I understand. However, what is the most important person in your life? If you're not able to take care of that person, you're not able to do your job, period, point blank, if you're not there, right? So don't get me wrong, the job will still get done, but not by you. And think about the people that are responsible, that you are responsible for, and what they need of you able to produce that. So the hard part, yes, taking the first step and realizing that you need to get some help. And it's not even help because you are floundering, but you need clarity, right?
Mhm.
You may need some unbiased conversations with someone that haven't known you since, the 80s. Say, boy, ain't nothing wrong with you. You had that problem for years. Wait,
Right.
okay, I don't like that problem. Why do I have that problem? You get what I mean? And talking to a professional is so helpful. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know I've
Mhm.
been around myself for over 40 something years and I'm still learning about myself,
Right.
right? By from a professional that's able to map milestones in my life that has helped me to become who I am now. Now that I understand that, I can have better conversations with people in confidence because I'm not worried about their perception of me. All right. Now I understand. So it's just so many things that counseling can do and therapy can do. And it's maintenance. Ladies and gentlemen, this is like you look,
That's
as soon as
good.
you're right, as soon as your engine blow up, you don't just go and say, hey, I need an oil change. What? No, you
Right.
get what I'm saying? It's a done deal at that point. So this constant maintenance to prevent that engine from blowing up is, to me, a another way of, therapy and counseling until you get to that, before you get to that point.
I have a lot of guy friends who left from the military and who struggle with mental health now as a result of their time served in the military, because you see a lot in the military, especially if you went over there and overseas for battle. So my heart goes out to a lot of veterans. I know my mom personally works with a lot of vets, and there are a lot of services, but there are a lot of people who have been marginalized and are not getting the help and support that they need. So,
Ooh, yeah.
yeah, my
And
heart goes out to them.
and here's the other part. Those individuals from the outside looking in, right? From the outside looking at the military, that's the first thing that comes to people's mind. Hey, you're going to war and you're seeing crazy things. No, and that's not false. The other
Mhm,
part of it is there's a such thing as occupational stress,
mm,
right? In organizations, like you don't
mhm,
even have to have deployed. You're just dealing with so much organizational trauma and
mm,
you know what I mean? The perceptions and the passive aggressive communication, and then the gaslighting. Oh my God, it's horrible, right?
right,
And then it's almost like a ghost is in the room that you see, you know is there, but you can't really put your hands around it. So you start double guessing and triple guessing, like, okay, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? You can have a level of PTSD
Mm,
out even going overseas,
wow, yeah.
right? Just by being in a toxic environment. And ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal: you don't even have to be enlisted to have post traumatic stress syndrome just by the environment that we were raised in. Did you
Yeah,
know that? You get what I mean?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it goes way past, the military as far as overseas. It can start before you even enlist. It can start right there at home.
So I'm curious because you mentioned like even the occupational therapy and then all of the passive aggressiveness that you might have experienced. What was that first step? Because you said you took counseling inside as you were enlisted. So what was that first step to say, okay, I need help, or I need support in this area
Yes, yes. So the first step was,
without
oh,
being judged?
oh yeah, without being okay. So I realized that I didn't know what to do. I didn't have all the answers. And I could not really I couldn't find the answers inside, nor could I connect with individuals that could help me, that I thought in a healthy manner, right? So I just did research and just bit the bullet and say, all right, look, let me see what I get, because I didn't have anything left, right? Because I knew that the way I was feeling was very valid, right? But I just needed help to decipher between, is this reality? Is this just in my head? Or how do I cope? In between that, then I had to learn, okay, Seth, you can be an ass naturally. That's who you are. Cool. All right. Now that you got that, realize there's people that don't know how to deal with certain things that you say, or even certain ways that you say it. Now, it's up to you, talking about myself, to find ways to speak better, to connect, not just communicate. Because you can talk at people and not with them, and they would take offense. And then you will think you're doing all the right things, but since they don't know how to communicate to you, they will just just leave you out there in the wind. You get what I mean? So
Mhm,
to answer your question, the first step was realizing, wait, I can't fix this alone.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. So hey, let me go
sure.
into these real quick. All right, Mac, he says, I don't like the stigma of being crazy, right? When you need therapy. Mental traumas are just as significant as physical traumas.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Miss Linde, what's going on? I agree. It's the maintenance or the form of self care. Yes.
yeah.
Then he also says, also, when you're overseas on deployment, right? When you miss out on significant events in your children's lives. My son was born when I was deployed, and I felt guilty for years. See,
Mm,
for not being at his birth. Yep, PTSD is real, and that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. And here's something else: people can't tell you how you feel or how to fix it if they've never. Come on. That's what get a professional.
yeah,
Get a
yeah.
professional.
Speaking of, back to James's point, just fatherhood, and for him, unfortunately, missing out on some of those early stages. What were the first steps when you first had your first child? What were some of those first steps? Like reality set in, I'm sure that you were a father. Were you able to stay at home with your significant other to support? What did that look like? I'm curious.
Mm. Oh wow. Okay. Y'all, here it is. Letting you know where we at right now. Okay. We here at the Lions Den. She just asked me a crazy question. She about to get the truth. You are too. So get ready. Buckle up. All right. Now, when I had my first child, all right. Boy. August
How,
2004.
and how old were you? Hmm.
I was 24 years old.
Mm,
Okay. 24 years old, coming out of not the best relationship, all right? And the marriage, as a matter of fact. So where I was mentally was, oh well, dang, tough luck, right? Not like that, right? Now look, I was not there. We wasn't together.
Sure.
So
And
when
24 is pretty young.
yeah,
Okay.
right, pretty young, right? So it was like, yeah, okay, what you gonna do about it? Now here's the deal. There was something in my heart. It was like, well, let me see, right? So I went to go see the baby, and at the time he was sleeping and just rolled over. So I didn't see nothing but a little hump. I'm like, all right, look, where's this little, where's the baby at? And
Like
so,
physically going to the hospital to see?
huh? Oh no. This was going to visit.
Okay.
Okay, this was going to visit. Wait, as a matter of fact, I froze up on my end. Can you
You
still see
did.
me?
You did freeze.
Okay, something happened over here, but nevertheless, we're going to keep it going. So yeah, I went to go visit, and it was just a little ball in the corner, right in the bed, and I'm like, okay, whatever, and the baby was rolled over, right? So she rolled him over, just to so I can see him, get a better view, and he opened up his eyes, and it was like, oh wow, that like something happened right there, like, wait a minute, this is real, right? For some reason, I don't know what it was, I just heard something say in a loud, right, audible voice, but it wasn't, outside. You are the daddy, you know what I mean? Or you are the father, right? There it is. So, when I saw that, when I felt that, I'm like, oh man, this is real at the time. Still 24. So I'm like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do the best that I can. Now, having a daughter, all right, my relationship, married, and now I'm older, right? And a daughter too, right? I'm like, wait a minute.
Oldest.
So,
What was the age that you were when you had your daughter?
now that was 31, right?
Okay, 24, 31.
That's right. So that, ladies and gentlemen, was that was a shift, and that was a hard reality to whatever it was that I thought about life and fatherhood. I really needed to take complete serious because my father wasn't in my life. So none of my children came with instruction manuals. I'm still looking for my daughters. Still. I don't know where it is. It might be in the mail. Okay. Slow rolling. But at the same time, I'm realizing that as I am contributing to another person, a life, I need to grow myself. And that was a very hard and humbling, but also rewarding thing in my life to do, to realize that I didn't know it all. And my child was going to tell me exactly how much I didn't know. Now, what about you, Dani? What about you?
Yeah, you know what? So my oldest is my rainbow baby. And so for those of you who are unfamiliar, a rainbow child is not typically, it's because after losing children, the first child after losing a few children or a child previously would be considered a rainbow child. So I had lost two children prior to Pierre being born. I had a stillbirth, and then I had a miscarriage. And if you can imagine, and if you have ever lost a child before, there's a lot of angst throughout every stage of the pregnancy. And so every stage, every time you wake up, every movement, every kick, you're wondering through that moment, is that it? Is this it? Is this the moment I'm losing my child? And so that was a lot, just kind of like going back to that mental angst and mental health. That was a lot for me. And then, not to mention, working like a Hebrew slave. I was working at a youth center. It was basically emergency housing for youth. And so I was doing like a graveyard shift, but occasionally, especially in the third trimester, I would continue to work like from swing to grave or morning through swing. I was just trying to work a lot of hours and just putting a lot of toll on my body, even to the point that I was fighting some of these kids because they were, coming back to the facilities high, very, rambunctious, wild children. So I put myself through a lot. And then the pandemic happened. So for us here in Washington State, the world shut down March 15th. The pandemic, no, and March 15th is when the pandemic happened, and then April 30th is when my child was born. So then that was also a lot of anxiety. That was very anxiety inducing. So it was a lot. And then most people would have a slew of people in the room with them when they give birth. I was only allowed to have my mom during the pregnancy or the birth of my child. That was a lot. And so through all of that, you know, women, most of us have that instinct that just kick right in. And for me, through all of that, that experience, I was just so grateful to have my son. And I think I just adapted really well. So the first steps for me was just like, I was grateful to be at home. I was grateful to have, here in Washington, we have FMLA. So I had like 12 weeks of that. I think I used 16 because I had a little bit of extension due to the pandemic happening. So just really leaning into it. Very grateful. That was my boy. That was my joy, my rainbow baby. You know, some people would be really nervous. I just melted. I was just so happy. And then my family surprised because, like I said, I had this hard exterior, and then we had all of these losses previously. So they still look at me and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you, out of all people, have two children and that you're doing so well." I'm just grateful for my two boys, and I leaned into it with all of the chaos in the world. When people were going through a lot at the early start of the pandemic, I was just in heaven with my baby, my newborn baby Pierre.
Nice, nice. See, that's awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we're talking about the first steps, I want y'all to reflect on where you are today and what steps did you take, right? What steps did you take and what did it do to you emotionally or mentally, right? And what was it? And because it's not easy, I promise you, it is not easy to get from one place to another. Now, you know where you want to be, but those steps in between, oh my goodness, right? So, for example, there's individuals right now. Yeah, I'm talking to you. There's individuals right now that are thinking about taking the next step in their career, like we said, the relationships, or even expanding their businesses. You know what you want to do. You know where you want to be. But I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, there's something that's this big that you feels like it's this big, but it's really that big because you have, and this is what I'm asking you to do. I asked my daughter to do this and she helped me out because she played along with me, but it made sense. I said, just think about it. Look back. Look at all that other mess you did, right? All those things that you've been through. Now look at all that, and now look at this again. What you just did was shrink down the perception of that first step, and that was just a little hump because you have a track record, right? You have proof of concept that you have done things to get you to where you are today. So what is in your way? Right? I know some friends right now that's considering retiring from the military or just changing and getting out of it. They don't like it anymore, right? It's not fun anymore. You're putting out more than you're getting back. Now, it's not about monetarily, ladies and gentlemen. It's your energy, it's your love, it's your money, right? It's your everything, your peace, right? Is your peace. And so what is it that you need to do? So, Dani, what's one other thing before we close that you think individuals may have a hard time to take the first step in?
Yeah, just relating it back to my own experiences, losing two jobs during the pandemic. A lot of people have a hard time coping with loss of a job, loss of identity that's attached to a job. And, you know, especially if you've been working like me, past 10 years, I've been working like two jobs simultaneously. So this has been a difficult time, but very getting out of my comfort zone, a very enlightening experience nonetheless, just so I can understand myself more. So some people have a hard time coping with the loss of an employer because a lot of people's identity is attached to that. And that just goes back to mental health and seeking out support, connecting with people, getting a therapist that can offer you some insights during that situation.
Shout out, shout out. Breaking the Silence podcast.
Shout out to Nikki, author Nikki.
Yes, yes, yes. And so, yeah, transitioning, ladies and gentlemen, is not easy because, like you said, it's that identity. And ladies and gentlemen, the thing to consider is this: you are getting paid to do a job. And
Right.
and that's the reality, right? That's the reality. It doesn't feel good what I'm going to say, but this is real talk. All right. You're getting paid to do a job. Now, the way you do the job is you, right? But you're getting paid to do a job. So will that job go on without you? Absolutely. Wrap your head around that to know that's the truth. Oh, they're going to fail without me because so-and-so don't know how to do it. Hey, just like you were hired, somebody else can be hired too, right? So it's a difference between doing your job and knowing the difference between what you do and who you are.
Right.
Those individuals that don't know the difference, they become stagnant or they become emotionally and mentally institutionalized, right, in an organization because they're afraid to grow. Ladies and gentlemen, realize when that pot is too small for your roots. You understand? What I mean by that is you can stifle yourself, you can choke yourself because you're afraid of getting out that comfort zone. You understand what I'm saying? And you're afraid of taking that first step. You in a look at here, you in a little pot, right? This is as far as you're gonna go. You know why? Because this is a little pot, but you've been born to be a tree, right? Go millions. You see, you dig what I'm saying? But you're only gonna be that until you get out of this. Is the bottom
Don't
line.
be a pot, be a tree.
Come on now. Come on. That's the deal. So
Yeah.
That's what we own right now. What you think about that though, Dani?
You know what? I don't want to leave on this somber moment or this last closing remark, but there are a lot of people who cannot get out of their comfort zones. And so they ended their life prematurely. And I just, not to say that's you, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what the situation is. If you have lost a job, you have lost a loved one, because we talked about all that in this episode, the loss of a job, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a child, the loss of a relationship. It's a season in life. And just know that you have to put that first foot in front of the other. That's the first step, taking towards greatness, walking towards better, walking towards something different. Get out of your comfort zone, get out of your own way, and get the help and the support that you need in order for you to achieve. That's what I have to say about it.
No, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this is real talk. This is what we do here at the Lion's Den. And if this is your first time, shout out to you, Miss Nikki. If this is your first time, make sure you stick around, right? Hit that subscribe and hit the little notification thing. Did y'all know it was a little bell there? So every time we go live, you get notified. So whatever you do in your life, we can be your favorite notification, right on? But we're talking about the first steps, no matter what it is that you're doing or that you want to do, is going to take you to be in the place to be to make it happen. All right. So we're going to sign off, but hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the Lion's Den. And until next time, y'all hold it down. All right. We appreciate you. Later.